All right, we're live.
All right.
I know we have freezing issues up there. So.
Hi, I'd like to welcome everybody to the December 11th, 2023 City of Idaho Springs work session. We actually have 6 things on the agenda tonight.
That should be better.
I'm going to give it one more minute just to see if we have a quorum. I know Scott and Kate will not be here. And he just told me literally as I was walking up. Well, just because we don't have a lot of time, I'd like to go ahead and kick us off with this Powder House restoration project. I know it's something that the city has considered for many years. In fact, I think the assessment, was it originally done in like 2009 or 2014?
The SHF project number is 2012.
Oh, okay.
So,
and we
over 10 years
completed that in December of 2013.
Oh,
so
I got it.
exactly 10 years ago.
Right,
Yeah.
so it is something we've certainly talked a lot about, and I'm glad you did touch on the angle of restoring it in place or moving it. You know, it's a really tough one because I know it's been party central for some folks for many years. Last time I was up there, it had a pretty hard weekend or something. There's just not a lot of eyes on it where it's at. So it's tough. All right, welcome. You make a forum too. Good to have you.
Oh, unbelievable. My last meeting, I'm gonna stifle the whole thing.
So we are kicking off the Powerhouse restoration project as one of our 6 items today. I think this probably will be the one that we spend the most time on. There's a few other ones here that'll go relatively quick, but to cover 6 in an hour and a half, I just wanted to kick us off on time. But that was it's a good report. And does staff have anything to add?
Sure. We do have this assessment that Hain Architecture completed, Mayor, and it's been in our plan to get this restoration done. And it is in the proposed budget for next year, the restoration. And we thought it would be helpful since there has been a lot of time that's elapsed, and we have some new council members for the Hains to give a high-level overview of the assessment, and then get hopefully some direction from council on, do we look at restoring in place? Do we look at moving it? There's been some discussion about the possibility of moving it, pros and cons, and just wanted to get council up to speed on this. So.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. So, as we were saying, we did do this assessment. We completed it 10 years ago, and it was funded through the State Historical Fund. And it's a very interesting structure. It's a powder house. It was used for storage of explosives. It's located on the Gardner-Placer survey. And this property is now owned by the city of Idaho Springs. We went back and kind of reviewed everything because it's been a while, but apparently the city purchased it, or they acquired the property in 1920. So the city has had this.
And you're correct about the taxes not being paid, and that also was true of the Parkdale, which is the adjoining uphill one that runs further up Van Eden Road. So why the city felt compelled to acquire those two, I guess that's lost to history. But it was interesting that they fell into some kind of financial issue and ended up,
Like a
well,
tax lien thing.
it's like 30 some acres in total, with tax lien, deficiencies.
Uh-huh.
So, as far as the building's condition goes, I don't know how many of you have gone up to see it, but the photos, it's a little worse condition than it was when we did the survey 10 years ago, but the stone walls are 18 inches thick. They're actually not in that bad a condition. They need to be repointed, but there's no missing stones that I'm aware of. And the only thing that's missing from the exterior shell is the steel door that was originally there. So that's something that could be easily replaced, and then it would be secure. Of course, there's the roof. The roof is at this point, the roof probably needs to be completely replaced. So yeah, in kind. It's a very minimal structure. It's 2x4s.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to me, it looked like it was undersized.
They're 3 feet 4 inches on center. It doesn't meet any kind of code, but I don't think we should just rebuild it exactly as it was built originally.
Yeah.
Just for historical accuracy. And the roof boards are, I believe, were they 1x12, something like that?
The roof sheet.
Really, the roof sheeting,
Yeah.
1x12 boards, we would not recommend using plywood or anything like that. Just build it exactly as it was. It's a simple thing. I don't think it would cost very much to just rebuild it exactly as it was originally constructed.
Yeah.
The 2x4s are set into pockets in the stone masonry. And on top of the roof sheathing was just 2 layers of like rolled roofing, and that's it. So there's,
The roof framing too is in really poor condition.
Yeah, I would replace it
The
completely.
roof has been open for so long.
Yeah.
It was open back 10 years ago. So the roof, not only the roof sheathing, but the roof framing
Right.
is in poor
Right.
condition.
Yep.
And last time I was there was almost no flooring at all.
right.
Yeah.
And the original floor was just 2x6s with 1x12 boards on top of that. And again, something that's easily replicated. And then the door frame, that's the only other wood in the building. So it's something that's very simple. It's just a stone box, basically.
Yeah, there were little screens, there were some masonry openings in the walls for ventilation. So that's kind of interesting. And then when Tim and I were there just a few weeks ago, we noticed that the building still looks like people kind of use it for their garbage
I'm
dump.
afraid so, yeah.
And it was like that 10 years ago, actually. So that hasn't really changed much. But it is a really interesting site. We've talked to the city, about that site and maybe, if you could just restore it in place. And we did kind of discuss that in this assessment. You could have a historical plaque there. I know, John, you were talking about maybe having a hiking trail there. And I know it's not nearby, so it's hard to keep track of what's happening there, but it is in its original historic context, which I think is important.
There was also discussion about making it more visible from Soda Creek Road. Right now, it's basically heavily wooded, and so there was some talk about possibly cutting down the trees between the road and the powder house so it's visible when you drive by, and that would probably help reduce the amount of partying that people do on the property. If they could be seen from the road, they might be looking for someplace else to go instead of there. Plus having a door on it, they can't go inside anymore. I don't know if they go inside or not, but just basically securing it. And then also we were in our report, we also talked about putting a dry zone around the perimeter, cutting down all the small shrubs and whatnot around the perimeter of the building, putting in maybe some sort of visqueen or something like that, a vapor barrier, and then putting peat grass down, a 3-foot wide strip all the way around the perimeter to keep water off away from the walls.
Kind of like what we did at our little hose house
Yeah,
down at the west end of Colorado Boulevard, create a dry zone.
right.
Because also the walls, the foundation is basically just the stone wall. And we did dig down.
I saw in one of your photos, you're down like about 20 inches or something like that to uncover the tops of some really large boulders that they built the walls on. And I thought that was a very interesting approach. And I have to say, I guess I should have guessed with as rocky as the soil is, that there wouldn't have been more settling, with the weight and everything, but it appears to have really held up.
Yeah, I mean, there is a crack in one of the walls.
Yeah, right, I saw that.
Yeah, which I'm sure is still there.
Now, considering its age and
Yeah.
lack of maintenance, it's really in pretty good condition. The stone, the
Yeah,
wood obviously needs complete replacement.
I noticed that the estimate, and this is a pretty old estimate, was looking at about like 85,000, as low as 65,000. It kind of depends on what all wanted to take on. My guess is we're probably almost double. It seems like everything that we do is about, a double. So,
right.
and of course, it's more deteriorated
Right.
now, so.
I'm just thinking about, all the work we did at the little hose house.
Mhm.
And that was, I think, about 120,000.
Yeah,
And they had to, strip the brick, remove all the paint, and we did have new roofing
yeah,
and.
that actually is a bright spot, right?
Uh-huh.
That's not, yeah, that,
you know,
it shouldn't be near the work that, this little building shouldn't be near the work that house.
No, it shouldn't be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows, but anyway, it could be pretty reasonable, I think, but not until we get some bids. And the person who put the estimate together for us, we work with him a lot, and he's always very reasonable.
Oh, good.
Tim McDonough, yes.
Yeah.
Sullivan, yeah.
Right, but then anyway, there are other contractors too, but.
Well, it seems like it's one of the more affordable projects for the city to, restore. Very unique, I have to say.
Uh-huh.
And I was in my second stint with historic preservation review before I ever got up to go up and see it. I never knew where it was,
Oh, uh-huh.
and I think a lot of citizens have no idea it's there.
I know, I think so. I think you're right.
It would be easy to make it more visible. Just
Yes,
cut those trees down.
because I just figure I'm a history nut, and I had done one stint on HPRC and still didn't know it was there
Uh-huh,
until like 2015 or something, when I
Uh-huh.
finally saw it for the first time.
uh-huh. It might be a nice area for picnics too, if you wanted to have some picnic tables out there.
Well, Lord knows, we do have a lot of land.
Uh-huh,
And as I was touching on, actually, the Parkdale goes much further, like almost a half a mile up the Van Eden Gulch Road.
huh,
It's a big one.
we should go up there and check it out.
Yeah.
And I could find no remnants of, the early mining activity. You can see some areas where you suspect there was hydro mining. But I was specifically looking for the dam.
Oh,
I couldn't see where it ever was.
uh-huh,
But anyways, my point is, of course, yeah, if there was a picnic area or something, we have a lot of land.
uh-huh. It's kind of peaceful out
Yeah,
there.
oh, it is, yeah.
Uh-huh,
Which dam in particular are you looking for?
It was on the Parkdale Placer field notes.
Uh,
You know where you have the old like handwritten field notes on the claims? And I saw it was one of the improvements. But again, it's like another half mile up Van Eden Road there. I think it's very high, and I don't remember why I thought that. Something on the drawing made me think it was only like 3 or 4 foot high.
I know of one dam in the area, but it's down at Soda Creek and Van Eden.
Hmm.
And that's all it is. It's just a small ponding area for a water line that used to come down Soda Creek.
anyway, it's an interesting property.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you put other powder houses in here. one of which is remarkably similar construction.
Mhm.
But I will just say from my personal experience, most powder houses are like a doghouse, or a little fraction of what this one is. This, I mean, to me, just seemed like a really exceptionally large one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it served three different claims. That was it in the, there were three different claims that were adjacent to it.
It was like the one at the Grand Army is maybe that tall, and it's a rusty 10-sided triangle. Is what it is.
Oh,
And that was a major, very major mine, and that's all they invested in the powerhouse. I
uh-huh.
don't know, probably a day or two's explosives.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a pretty substantial structure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the stone construction and former steel door.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
It's too bad we don't know what, whoever ran off of that steel door. Because you put in your report, it was still being used in the 50s, I think you said in here. So, you know, my guess is that the door would have been there until more modern times when somebody just decided they couldn't live without it. But it would have been really substantial just
Oh,
because,
yeah.
as you point out, the hinges are massive.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. We've worked on the Red Cliff Town Hall in Red Cliff, which is a really interesting little town. Anyway, the town hall has a jail in the back. It's a separate structure. And it has a very heavy steel door on it.
Right, yeah.
Which I can kind of imagine that this has a similar door, this powder house.
Right.
Because they didn't
So
want
this could be this could be a holding cell.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Just kidding. Is there a way to, when the restoration is done, to view inside? If we have a heavy metal door on the front, are there ways to see inside, or could there be a way that would be sensitive to the historic preservation?
You could cut a window opening in the door and let them know that that's not original, but it's there in order to view inside, and just put glass in it.
Mhm,
You do that.
mhm.
Yeah.
Because we have to replace the door anyway.
And is there power on the site? I don't think there is, right? Could power be run to it?
Well,
If you want to put a light inside.
you may have noticed the two addresses that are like on the tree as you're driving up.
Yeah,
You almost feel like you're trespassing.
yeah,
Right.
And I'm just saying, so it seems like to me that there's power in relatively close proximity. I would think within a pole, maybe not even a pole.
mhm.
Right.
Oh, you don't, Paul?
No, I'm just, most of these powder houses of that era, they had a glass pane on the inside of the cutout of the wall where you could put a lantern from the outside without actually entering flame or
That
introducing
makes
flame into
sense.
the inside of it.
Oh, good
So
idea.
I don't know if those vents, what you saw may have just been those portals to put a lamp from the outside where you could view what was going on, where you could see what was going on inside there.
Those vents on the north wall,
Sure.
one high and one low, I think they're just trying to get air through there to prevent buildup of.
But it does make
Possible
sense.
things.
You wouldn't want direct flame, but
Yeah, you
around
don't carry
there.
direct flame in there, so there was often a glass pane
Yeah,
and some sort of portal where you could put a lamp from the outside and have light inside there.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Because if you wanted people to be able to look inside, then it would make sense to, and there's no windows in this building, so you'd want to have a light bulb or something in there to, and you could even set up a display.
Or just running like a light bulb, we could probably set up a little solar system over there on a battery or something. Pretty
yeah.
minimal.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to have like, boxes, empty boxes.
Empty boxes.
Of
Yeah.
explosives.
Right.
Again, from the
full
George.
boxes.
Yeah.
Acme TNT.
Yeah,
They pulled a lot of those out of the Georgetown school.
they sure, they pulled a lot of explosives out of Georgetown School, not just boxes.
Anyway, yeah, it's really fun to think about possibly restoring it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Council, any questions? right. Well, that was a really good report. And
Oh, thank
I like
you.
I know it's something that, is budgeted for next year, and it's something I think we can comfortably take on. It's kind of one of the more affordable projects for sure.
Uh-huh.
And as we started the discussion with, it is something that we have put off for obviously more than a decade.
We have a lot of historic properties, so I guess you have to prioritize. So,
Got a train to restore.
Yeah.
right.
So Mayor, are you okay if we move forward with, working with the Haynes on a proposal, scope of services and of course that will come
Sounds
back,
good to me,
come
Jeremy.
back to council.
All right, John, all right.
So that'd really be the next step is the scope of services put
Sure.
together, and then before we put out the RFP, we would go back to council with an update on. And there may, costs may, obviously, I'm sure have increased. I think we need to come back with a little information about what we think the bigger plan might be for that area. Obviously, the main priority is getting the hose house restored, but I think there's some opportunity, has been mentioned here, to make it a little park like type setting. So try to better manage it and make it an attractive place to be. I know there's some parking in that area, people who park and then go bike and things like that, but maybe we just kind of go with the resistance and try to just make it an easier to secure and manage site.
Yeah, and one thing I appreciated in the report, and I think it was really accurate, the parking actually is pretty decent on that Little Creek, road there. I mean, it's very deep.
Uh-huh, it is,
And
it is.
There's no parking signs there, people park there anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
See how you went up to the top of the hill.
That's kind of what I'm getting. Maybe we formalize that area a little bit, right? Rather than trying to just ban it, we try to say, okay, we're gonna try to manage it and make it a little nicer location.
Yep.
Just a thought.
All right, well, thank you so much. That's,
Oh, you're
uh,
welcome, it was our pleasure.
I'm glad to see that the fruits of your labor
Finally.
come out.
Just have to be patient.
Yeah, the wheels are turning good for a lot of our projects, so that's good. Okay, well, thank you for hosting us.
Get everybody is we get so much positive feedback about the West End Hose House.
Oh,
Hose House
good.
number 2, and even though that was a relatively small project, it was important to the neighborhood and
Yeah,
the
it
community
really
here.
was.
Uh-huh.
It looks great.
Yeah.
Oh, it does look great. Yeah.
I like to refer to it as a little jewel box.
It is.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
We'll see you in a couple days, I guess, at
Okay,
our
that's
progress
right.
meeting. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Next up, dispatch agreement, with Jeff Com. Welcome, chief.
There. So, I was just asked to provide an update, and I'll be pretty brief as far as this. I think everyone's familiar with this, but I actually went back and looked at some of my older emails just to sort out when all this started. It actually began in April of 2022, so quite a while ago. So as you know, we were looking at other options for the city, really as a cost driver to move to JeffCom. And in that process, we're to a point where now we're ready to sign an agreement. But to update council, the mayor's aware, originally we thought our costs were going to be a little bit less as a group. One of the things that we really wanted for Clear Creek County was to have our own pod. So in order to have our own pod with 2 full-time dispatchers and really have the same feel for what we're doing now, it was going to cost a little bit more. So for 2024, we were likely to be budgeting $370,000 for dispatch services for Clear Creek County. And so this is still a cost savings at $188,000 for Idaho Springs for our portion. The current resolution that you're going to see later on the agenda is for a 3-year agreement at that cost, and then thereafter it'll be what's the terminology?
Yeah, CPI.
Yeah. So
Just
inflationary, driver. So that's where we are. I also thought just to share with folks that we've already Jeff Com director and their main representatives came up and met with all of the leadership here in Clear Creek County at the Sheriff's Department a couple weeks ago. And we had a good productive meeting that lasted a number of hours. And I also would like to share that I know that 3 of the dispatchers that currently work in Clear Creek were offered jobs at JeffComp. They did the interviews that day and were offered jobs. So if they so choose to take those. So, and I would say higher paying than what they were at Clear Creek. So right now we're scheduled for January 10th for training down at their center, and that 2 of our sergeants will go, or our 2 sergeants will go to that training. And that's for using their computer aided dispatch system, which is basically using your laptops, and the officers will be able to see what's going on with 911 calls and dispatch here in Clear Creek. So they're going to go to that training on January 10th. And as it stands, we have a go live date of moving to JeffCom on February 21st of 2024, which is a Wednesday. And that's by design because there's more people at work that day, and we don't like to start things on a Friday before the weekend. So that's probably all I have on that. If anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Chief?
Nate, do you know if where they're at with taking over like the downstream users call down list?
That's gonna stay the same. So that list is fixed. That's just gonna transition down to JeffCom.
So we would just call them and then it's the same call out?
Same call, that same, nothing changes, and that it's all been that was updated like 2 months ago. The list, we took some people off the list that shouldn't be on it and validated some that should.
That was a good idea.
Yeah, that was, so that's done, and that just gets transferred as a Excel spreadsheet into their system. There's a change in the software to what Jefferson County uses for their emergency alerts. So it's gonna be being uploaded in the system.
All right, I'd like to find the list to confirm who, if we're on it or not. Because some of it was calling the water plant, some was calling away, some of it was calling us. There's a place to find.
Yeah, get with Suzanne Bocher with OEM, and she has the master copy area.
Okay, and then if we had an emergency, say at the wastewater plant and had to make a call, do we call JeffCom?
Yes.
Do they have a number that's like besides 911 to
Yes.
call? Okay,
Yeah, we'll share a non-emergent number with you. You just can't be shared beyond you. That makes any sense?
yeah,
So you'll have direct access to the pod to do those notifications.
okay,
This won't be a publicly published number.
okay. You guys can sneak it to me after the.
Yeah, that'll go out to all
the
the
download.
downstream users, so they have being notified without going through phone tree.
Ed, good questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jeremy, thanks. That was some good information.
That was a project that has transitioned a couple months ago.
All right. Very good. Anything further for Chief?
Chief, will there be, is the county or, planning some sort of public, announcement on this?
Yes,
Okay.
so in fact, they actually have materials that they've provided to JeffCom. There's materials they provided to help with like PIO and getting it out to the public that this is happening. I think that we've mentioned within our city, there's some things, steps we'll need to take to ahead of time. But we don't want to do that. We want to do that pretty close, a couple of weeks maybe before we go live. So there is a big push to have a public education campaign to let people know that this is what's happening. And my intent also, just so the city, so we're all aware, my intent, some agencies have moved towards having like JeffCom answer all phones. But my intent would be that we would still have our phone number at our police department. So during regular business hours, if you call that number, you're gonna get somebody answer at the police department. I know some agencies haven't done that. They just make all communication through there. So we won't do that. After hours, somebody can push the button that can transfer them to where they need to get an officer. So that's one of the things that I think our residents are gonna need to know or be aware of. But But when they call during the day, that our employees will answer the phone. So.
All right. Anything further? Well, Chief, thank you very much for the update.
All right.
Next up, unstaffed hotels. Jonathan.
Mayor and Council, this is a proposed ordinance change to the definitions of our code for what a hotel is. Our code currently says that a hotel has to have a lobby with a check-in area and an on-site person for staffing. And what we're proposing is to change this to align better with business models that are actually happening in the city. Planning Commission has been considering this definition since this summer. There's a couple things that are important about it. One, you can only have an unstaffed hotel in a commercial building, so that means it couldn't be a way to create an unlicensed short-term rental. Has to have that 3 to 8 room kind of window, so it's not too big, because we think if there's more rooms, it might require more on-site maintenance and things like that. The only other really big change is that they have to have a local representative. It's the same system we use for short-term rentals. Most of these hotels use similar systems to like a short-term rental to advertise, and then they have a app on a smartphone or something like that for people to come. It's a pretty prominent model that's happening now. We did suggest allowing it in the historic district, C1, C2, C3, L, light industrial, and then the industrial one
And
district.
thank you for bringing that up, because I can imagine a lot of folks at home might have the question, you know, maybe the last thing they want is that cropping up next to them.
Right.
So it's an appropriate
Yeah.
zoning.
We want to keep it out of residential. We
Yeah.
want to keep this very distinct from what a short-term rental is.
Right.
So that was one of the reasons we tried to set this language up that way.
All right. Any questions for Jonathan?
Jonathan, is this being recommended by the planning commission?
Yes, Planning Commission unanimously recommended this to City Council for consideration
Okay.
This will be on first reading.
tonight. Yeah. There probably will be consideration of other potential regulation changes around how hotels work in the future by Planning Commission, but that's kind of on the 2024 work plan.
Mhm. All right, so the only other I guess major consideration for a potential unstaffed hotel is that there's a bit of leniency on the parking compared to a regular hotel. Where, for example, a regular hotel, even with the same number of rooms, you would have to allocate 2 parking spaces for staff. Whereas since this is unstaffed and folks largely coming during the lull to change and clean the rooms, there is no such staff parking requirement.
Yeah, Planning Commission talked about that, but they didn't end up modifying because the parking regulations are separate. It would be another ordinance.
Gotcha.
But we would like to review our parking regulations anyway, and that's something that came up in the last Planning Commission meeting. And we could certainly bring this back to the table to you with a suggestion there, or City Council can also look at that amendment. But we didn't make, that change wasn't made for this ordinance.
Okay. All right, I know they're looking at maybe 1 space per room with unstaffed.
That's kind of like along the lines of how it works for hotels, so it's like the guest rooms spaces. So it's certainly something we could. We thought one of the things about doing it this way is that it allows it by definition, so that we have a definition for this use. So when it comes to the city, we have a way to talk about that thing. And then if we think about further hotel regulations or potential changes to the parking regulations, we can add that on top. But we wanted to make sure that, I think one of the goals of Planning Commission was to, low hanging fruit is a bad term, but we wanted to try to make these changes to allow uses where they make sense for health, safety, and welfare in the city.
Yeah. All right, any further questions before we move to the next topic? Jonathan, I think you're also up on this one.
Yeah.
The website project.
So we have had a free website that's been offered by the state of Colorado for several years. And it's been really great for the city because when we started, we didn't have the money for a website and we didn't really have a web presence or anything like that. In the intervening time, the website's been updated 3 main times and we've grown with it. And I think we've grown out of it. We for over a month now, I've been having this issue where we cannot update our website. And basically what happened is the contractor selected by the state to run the website updated the website on the back end, a program called Drupal, and they updated it to a newer version. But when they did that, they removed our ability to modify it. And this has been really problematic because we need to post press releases on there and we need to update it. It still says there's an election happening on November 3rd. for instance.
Sure, I think it's chief, I mean, there's something like every week, it
Yeah.
seems like, you know.
Well, and we've had other problems too. Right now, the only two people who are allowed to touch the website are me and Danielle. And that's not ideal because our departments all have the capability of doing what they need to do. And it minimizes our ability to proactively kind of like get good information in the community. So we've been talking about this for some time. We had a budget request actually for $20,000 for next year. We actually had one this year too to do some of this work. And it was to start looking at web services. Website can be pretty expensive. You can spend $60,000 on a website and not even blink. And so this is one of our concerns. We've also had this other thing happening where there's new ADA requirements for municipal websites like ours and digital documentation. And those requirements to get us into compliance with what we have presently, it could be expensive to get all the way to where we need to be. And we have a timeline of June 1st, where we really got to get all this done so that we wouldn't face any kind of litigation for having a bad document or something like that. When this happened, where we were kind of locked out of the website, I talked to Andy and the mayor and chief a little bit at our department heads meeting about the problem. And I suggested that we look at a couple of these different websites that offer municipal services that are kind of designed to a way that you can just kind of plug into them, make it your own. And then there's a lot of benefits to that because you have full 24/7 support. You're paying for that support. So somebody's actually going to pick up the phone when you call them. And there's tools that were contextually built for municipal government, which make it a lot easier to talk to people and give people good experiences when they come to City Hall. An example of this is like our forms. We've gone and done a lot of work with the forms of the city to make sure they're like form fillable PDFs. But it's still really difficult to access the right form and to know you've got the right version of it. And there's a lot of different issues that we have on the back end with management of this. Using a program like Civics Plus, which I recommended in my staff report, they have the ability to make form fillable forms online so that we can automate a lot of our processes and make them simpler. We also, for this particular software that I recommended, we already use it partially. We use a software called Municode, and that's where all of our municipal code is housed online. And it's a searchable database of all our code. If we go with Civics Plus, it's going to enhance that service so that, for instance, if somebody's looking up an ordinance, like say you pass this unstaffed hotels ordinance tonight, that'll get updated in the city code as a part of our code. And then there will be a link to this meeting that we're having right now where somebody can come, click that link and hear what council talked about related to that ordinance, which I think is going to help us with our community engagement goals. I did quite a bit of research about what the best software is. There's a couple of these municipal software packages that are available, but they're all relatively expensive. Civics Plus, we have some benefits since we already are a customer of theirs. They've offered us a fairly significant discount on the services. They have a more fully featured software platform than I'm recommending, but there's two pieces that I think that we really need to kind of build our kind of three-legged stool of governance online. The first is Web Open Ultimate. There's a cheaper version of this, but what is good about Web Open Ultimate is it has some more design tools so we can make it look like our own website, but it also makes it much easier to publish press releases in a way that it comes right to the front of the website. So if Chief has a press release, there's a button you can click on the front of the website and it just pops up with whatever needs to be told to people right at that moment. So it's a really good tool. I think it's a lot better than their lower level service, and the cost difference is not significant, especially since we already get that pre-existing customer pricing. The other tool that I'm suggesting is Meetings Essentials Ultimate. And this is very similar to our open media project that we use right now, which is free again. On our website, you can click and go to any meeting you want, and you can kind of look at the packet, you can watch the video. It has keyword search that's tied to the live captioning on Google. So Google transcripts each meeting and then you can search that. So for instance, I can look for water and find any meeting where we talk about water. Meetings Essentials Ultimate doesn't have that feature, but you can still timestamp conversations to the agenda so people can watch the video. That's a feature that's coming to it. It also has a whole suite of packages that are going to make Wonder's job 10 times easier. It probably cuts 3 hours off per week in terms of making a packet and managing a meeting. It also lets her create minutes on the fly that link to the agenda, so she can take firsts and seconds on votes, record all that information, attendance, things like that digitally, which I'm not sure she would do that right away, but it would certainly make everything in her job much, much easier to manage. It also creates a process where one of the things we have to do with packets, like on a staff report like this, is like I will write it and then send it to Andy and maybe Carmen if necessary, make sure we've got everything right and correct, and then we send it back. But we have a deadline for that where we sometimes, you just got to keep people moving. This software will streamline all of that as well. So it tells people when there's reviews that they can do, has deadlines in there. It's a very simple system. You don't have to worry about people having Word or anything like that because they can do it online. So I think in a lot of ways, this is going to bring our meeting preparation into a new level that's going to make us all more effective. On the pricing, I think it's pretty reasonable. We had, again, that $10,000 this year, $20,000 next year. The Web Open Ultimate, the first year cost is $34.21. That's with a 20% discount because if we can sign up for it this year, which we can since we have it in the budget, we get a discount, and then we get a discount for each software we have. There is an annual uplift. I wanted to tell you 5%. I don't know if they always do that, but they have it in the contract in case they need it. Meetings Essential Ultimate is the same thing. It's a higher startup cost because we're going to be storing documents online. So we have to build up our whole server to do that. And then the next year costs are just maintenance costs essentially, and just kind of running everything. As I noted, this brings us totally into compliance with Section 508 of the ADA. It's all the high-level security standards that we would want from a municipal website. It has really cool tools. The Moncito and Audio I was telling you about are tools that you can run documents through and pages through, and it will tell you if you have an accessibility problem, which is really critical because we're going to start in June, we begin to be liable for anything that's not accessible on the website. So this will let us, as we build new tools and new sites, make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing. Ultimately, that's kind of all I wanted to tell you. This is year-to-year software. We're not locked in. All of our stuff is transferable. So if we decide there's another software called Granicus, or if we get our own website, we should be able to transfer this data no problem to that new site. So overall, I don't think that there's much of, the cost of this software is within the budget that we've kind of defined for ourselves. It will drastically increase our ability to provide good community service and engagement online. And it's going to help staff have much more capacity to manage meetings and packets. And so ultimately, I did recommend those two tools. And I just wanted, Chief's been kind of involved in this too, so he may have some additional comments. But
Sure. Well, Jonathan, first, thank you for your work on that. And I guess I would say that this was started with some frustration from me because we were dealing with some things and I was wanting to get information out. And we do, as you all know, typically I try to do a press release, and we're doing enough. There's enough things going on that I try to get one a week. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's a little less. So we're constantly trying to build that library within our website, with our specific website. So this sort of frustration with dealing with some other things that were going on really kind of brought this to a head. And I think now that we're a paying customer, the customer service should be there versus getting something for free and having a sort of customer service level that doesn't exist because it's free. So that's my take. And I appreciate Jonathan's work on it. So.
Well, also, I have to say, 3 hours a week of Wonders time, that's 150 hours in a year. I mean, you do the math, more than half of this is paid for just with staff savings. So not only does it keep us out of trouble and, bring us into the 21st century, but I think it's a relative bargain, compared to the staff.
One more thing, Mayor, on the ADA that I thought was interesting. I attended a class on that issue. We've got to be able to have the website that somebody who is blind has the ability to actually have the website read to them what is on the website. And we don't have that as the way it stands now. I mean, that it has to be able to have that capacity, and this will give us that capacity.
I was anticipating a $20,000 grant request to do that work this spring, and this completely sidesteps it.
Yeah, I mean, you can only imagine what's needed to do that. to provide that level of
And,
service.
and I'm
So-
sorry, Jonathan, did you say we are supposed to be up to speed on that June 1st?
Mhm.
Oh, boy, okay.
And now it's not gonna be an issue at all, like we're covered with this. We'll still need to make sure if we have PDFs uploaded that we run through that system. But that is a fairly simple process because then we're just looking at contrast things and things like that. So we should, and then I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the links. I put a couple of the ones I liked, but
Yeah.
they're beautiful websites. They're responsive, which means they work just as well on your cell phone as they do on a computer. And they'll help us. They have a designer, so we can make the whole thing look, very professional and like Chief was saying, Danielle doesn't have to be the only person. Like we can have, like for instance, Dylan could manage a community development page. There is a tool I added as an add-on for community development, and it was $250 annually, so I thought pretty minimal. But what it would allow is for Dylan to kind of start listing projects in an appropriate way for when they're happening. But then you could have little updates about each project as it's going. Which I think would be good for the community too. 'Cause that
Well,
is
yeah, we
something
do. We
need.
get lots of questions about that.
Yeah, the current website is certainly so far out of date that when I was applying for this job, I assumed nothing had happened.
Oh.
Several years
Full
potentially.
year that way.
But I have also used Civic Plus as a website administrator for the last almost 4 years. So
Good.
it's very easy to use, I will say, as a non-professional, or as a non-IT professional.
Excellent. Any questions for John?
Just one follow-up question. The one question I wanted to make sure that was okay is we get a fairly significant discount if we can sign before December 31st. We do have that budget right now that we had budgeted last year. That can cover that cost for the first year, and then we can probably fine tune that budget request for this in the future. But I just wanted to make sure that was okay if you guys were on board with this.
Art, you all right with that?
Absolutely.
John? Jeremy?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Well, we can get this running on some bigger websites, they say it's like a 6-week process, but I was talking to the guy and he said if we can get signed and get all the information to them, we might be able to get this done in a couple of weeks. So
Oh.
it shouldn't be too bad.
Okay.
New website, new year.
Yeah.
All right, very good. We will move on to Virginia Canyon Mountain Bike Park trail name.
Well, Mayor and Council, we have Gary with us online tonight, so he should be popping up there in a second. Just really briefly, we talked last week or last meeting about A, signage locations, and B, naming the trails. Gary and I were talking a little bit. We really think that we should do a little bit more engagement than we had before coming up with that first name list. And so we wanted to take a little bit of time and try to do that, maybe bring that back to you in January. But what we do want to do is try to get these signs moving so that we can get the bigger signs kind of fabricated so they're ready to go. So what I did is I took a couple maps for you, and you'll see they're not the most detailed maps, but these are kind of general placements for them. In the packet of signs, Gary has some red writing on top that kind of says what sign we were thinking about where, and then on those maps, I kind of just said, sign A, sign E, whatever, and kind of approximate location of where they might be. So I think what we're looking for direction on tonight is whether or not you guys are comfortable with these signs. And again, we want to work with our partners at the Argo to make sure they're placed appropriately for what they're building and developing, and that these signs are, good benefit to the community and that they're appropriate language and look and all that kind of thing. But they're going to look generally like what they look like in the packet, and we'll have opportunities to put logos for the partners and things like that, like CPW and GoCo and the city logo. But we're really just looking for direction on whether council would be comfortable with these locations we identified on the maps.
Jonathan, I just want to add, I thought the locations made perfect sense. But the sign size and how beefy they are, I mean, it was impressive. I mean, these, I'll call it the arch kind of sign where there's a pole on both sides. Those are like 8 foot, and they're 8 foot wide. And then there's like 28-inch signage that's a quarter of an inch thick of aluminum. I mean, they're not kidding with the stuff being stout. I think it's really going to hold up well. But anyways, that's my 2 cents. I thought it was perfectly logical locations.
Gary, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or?
No, I just wanted to clarify that we're not talking about having all of those signs that's in the packet. The packet was all of the available designs that Trek was that has had designed and engineered. That I think the one you specifically pointed out, Mayor, the big arch is one that we have not selected, but that, making sure that we are happy with the style of signs that we've chosen there. The sort of I call it the monument style, the low to the ground one is the one that we're recommending for parking lot roadway entrances. Um, the alternate to that would be, potentially the sort of the Jurassic Park looking design. Depending on what kind of an entryway you're trying to create to the park. But I think because, we're expecting to have fairly limited parking on Riverside Drive, and a lot of people are going to be accessing the park, driving up from other parts of the city on bike or foot. That the lower one is just better in terms of eyesight and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's really the direction we're looking for is, are those two style signs for the outer edges and then that kiosk version for three places within the park that would be, the user information. That's where you would have, park rules and sponsor logos or partner logos, really in this case. The wayfinding, the trail map, that sort of thing would be on those kiosks. So because those five are sort of the bigger, more, they take longer to get produced. We're hoping to sort of, get a plan there sooner than later and start working with Trek on what the fine details are on placing those orders. And then ultimately we would need to do a second round at least to come back with the wayfinding within the trail system, which is also a page there in that catalog, but we're not talking about placing any of those orders at this time. We kind of need to know what the trail names are and where those junctions are going to be and how long some of the segments are going to be, that kind of thing.
All right, John? You good?
Yeah.
Okay, Art?
Yep.
And Jeremy?
That makes sense to me.
All right.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. I'll work on coming up with that next step with Trek on what additional information they would need from us. Obviously, when it comes down to actual physical location, that's something that we're going to have to work with all the project partners in the city and figure out, what's going to be constructed when and where and come up with the idea, particularly for the roadside ones. I think the kiosk signs, we have a pretty good sense of where the bottom one and the hub is going to be. The upper one is going to be a question until we figure out the actual orientation and the full plan there for the upper landing with the Mighty Argo cable car. But I'll work with John and Andy on getting that order prepared for those five main signs.
All right, thank you. Oh,
Absolutely.
anything else on the signs?
Gary, you may have already mentioned this, but how does that acquisition occur with the signs? Is that done through Trek or they provide the signs and we?
No, my understanding, Andy, and I'll clarify if it turns out that I've missed something, but the order forms are essentially included in that packet, and we have a contact at Trek that I'll be sending those over to. And my understanding is that they get them manufactured and ship them here to town, and then we're responsible for actually getting them located and installed.
Okay. Thank you.
So there shouldn't be any, transfer of funds one way or another. They'll take care of that on their end and ship them out to us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to add, there's an added benefit that they're paying for the signs. Because I mean, these are nice signs. That's why I mentioned like 1/4 inch thick aluminum. They're it's probably twice what I was expecting.
It's almost $30,000 worth of signage is what we were kind of thinking, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
And that is above and beyond the 250,000 they gave us.
yeah, very good. All right, well, last thing on our list is the parking rate.
Well, Mayor and Council, you may have noticed that my staff report says one thing and then talks about another thing. So I left a copy of the real staff report on the table for you here. This is an issue that we have been working with through the Vitality Task Force. You may know I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce as well. And we've been engaging at the Chamber in a listening campaign with the kind of the business community and local stakeholders as well, residents and people who spend time in the community, and listening to a lot about what people think and what people think would make Idaho Springs better and all of that kind of stuff. As you know, last year, we changed the rate structure of the parking. And the reason we did it is because we want to be able to fund the mobility hub and keep that funding coming from the parking facilities itself. So we created what's called an enterprise fund, which manages that money kind of like a business. And we set the rate structure so that it right now is $5 for the first 2 hours, $5 an hour after that. Residents of the city and county and employees are always free. And also free are like guests of residents. You can always get a free pass for that. And we work a lot with contractors and people like that as well. So really the parking facilities are just really focused on charging for visitation to the city. That structure has been relatively effective. We've seen our rate of visitation actually increase this last year. We're moving towards 2.5 hours, where before we were under 2 hours. And we really haven't seen a drop off in overall transactions. Last year, we did have a really high level of transactions. And the reason for that was we didn't really have shoulder season. So where we normally see a drop during this part of the year and during mud season, which is in the spring, last year that didn't happen. So we did have a little bit elevated transactions. But when you look at this normalized across the data for that we've seen through the whole operation of parking facilities, it's really about the same, if not just a little bit more. In that listening campaign that we've been doing, one of the things that people have been telling us is that they'd like to find ways to promote like the third hour of visitation, thinking that a lot of people will come and they'll go to one of the restaurants and they'll sit for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And then maybe at the end of that, there's not quite as much time for shopping downtown as we'd like. And they'd like us to think about, could we structure the rate so that there's the escalator rate, which is when it just charges $5 an hour all the time, where that might come a little bit later. So we looked at that a little bit. And one of the things we predicated our model on was that the first 2 hours are $5, $2.50 an hour. That represented, I want to say, a 47-cent increase from where we were before. But that allows us to essentially pay for the parking structure that we need. That creates a viable and sustainable revenue source for that. But when we look at it, that second and third hour, they were previously $5, or the third and the fourth hours. I say second hour on here, it's really the third and the fourth hours. Those were both $5 an hour. And that isn't as dedicated to revenue, it's revenue. But if we change those two rates, what we can do is we can lower the overall cost of a 4-hour visit, which might encourage people to stay and shop longer. So what I've done in this staff report, I ran the numbers on that. I think, obviously it's going to change our revenue expectation because we're going to have people, if it works, we'll have people stay longer, which will reduce the overall turnover rate in the parking lots. But with that being said, I think we're going to probably see our small businesses that surround the restaurants and maybe some of our points of interest, like that are in close proximity to downtown, have more visitation because there'll be a little bit more time before you get to that escalator. So we'll see a 4-hour stay reducing cost from $15 to $10. And again, we work with a lot of people. We also use this frequently as a marketing tool and try to work with people when they need to come to the city. So I don't think that the hit on this on city revenue, while it's going to affect the revenue from the parking, I don't think it's going to be that dramatic. And I think it will help our business community a little bit. So what I'm asking is on January 1st to make that rate change. So just to state it again, the first 2 hours would be a $5 fee. The hour 3 and hour 4 would be $2.50 each. And then subsequent hours after that would be $5. And what that does when we raise that cost is it really stops people from using the parking lots as a park and ride and leaving town for long periods of time. And that's a really important part of our program and how we manage turnover. So that's something that we want to try to think about when we're doing this. We don't want to create, some of our parking lots, we do have a lower rate throughout the day, but they're kind of a little bit further out. This would be just into those close lots, the downtown lots. And then I just want to mention, we do have a significant amount of free parking within close proximity to downtown too. So one thing that we'd like to do next year on the work plan for parking is signage. And we'd like to start making sure that we have a little better direction to that free parking as well as some other changes to that. But that would be a program for probably for 2024 before the summer. And we'd like this to go into effect before that.
All right, thank you. And I will say, I have heard, especially from many smaller gift shop owners, that they feel left out, that folks will spend most of 2 hours in one of our larger restaurants. And then if they're playing beat the clock, because they don't want to pay that extra $5, you know, because they stayed 20 more minutes to go into the gift shop or what have you. So they race out. I've heard that from a number of people. So I think that this will help. And of course, we want all businesses to be successful, not just, you know, our larger restaurants. And the city then ends up, you know, I think we're probably going to make as much, maybe even more in parking revenue. But, you know, the other thing is then there's sales tax, because folks are spending longer and, you know, they're opening up their purses and wallets to stay extra time and enjoy themselves and maybe go get that, you know, candle or whatever they couldn't live without. So anyways, thank you very much. And I think that's a good point about the free parking signage being improved. So, very good.
Well, I can tell you from my experience, you've almost got a perfect model here for a tourist town. You're more in line with the majority of cities across this country that do this, and it will affect your third hour for your local residents. It's no, I am not worse, not expected. It will do that. That's my experience in a couple different cities, especially in State College. So I think you hit it right on the button. As far as you're concerned, the sales tax will make up, I believe, for the parking. So I think it is a perfect model here.
Well, thank you. That's
Yeah, Art, especially coming from you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
I know I always go and know that.
you have a lot of experience in this area, so
I
that
do,
means a
and
lot.
this is, it's perfect. My opinion.
Good deal. John, you all right with it?
Yeah, all right.
Okay, good. Jeremy?
Yeah, there's no-
Okay, very good. Just because we have an extra few minutes, I just want to remind everybody that we do have the holiday party Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30 this Thursday at the Yards Tap House. Please come. Everybody's welcome. Bring your family, and should be a good time. And we are uncharacteristically early. It's only about 6:36. So maybe we take a 20-minute comfort break and we'll reconvene here for a regular meeting at 7 p.m.
Mayor, I don't know if we officially did it, introduce Dylan Graves.
You know what?
New community development planner. That was our
Yeah.
intention, but we just jumped right into the schedule.
sorry.
Maybe some were wondering, okay, who is this guy sitting here? They-
So, Dylan, I think your first day was the 29th, is that right?
Yep.
Well, it is really, really good to have you, you know, it's not the same without a planner. We don't like to burn our staff out, you know, and frankly, yeah, I mean, that's way too much. For one person. It's- But it is really good to have you on board. And in case there are folks that don't know, Dylan had been commuting over to Summit County when he lives here in Idaho Springs. So anyways, a better work-life balance, I hope, for Dylan as well. But welcome aboard. It's really good to have you.
Yeah, happy to be here so far. Happy to take a little bit off of Jonathan's plate.
We've been working really good so far together. So
Oh, good.
And yeah, save a lot of time in the car.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, you know what, I can't help but think about you when like a blizzard is coming in, you know, because that's when you really don't want to, you know, try going west.
Right. Well, and where my house is, I can look out and just barely see the highway. And some mornings when you see the cars just moving so slowly, it's nice to be able to just have another cup of coffee.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I put on my heavy coat and walk to work. Darn.
Right.
if there's such a bad blizzard that, the highway's closed, I'll have to just man the city hall myself.
Dylan's already attended his first planning commission meeting.
Oh, good.
Just be, not quite, but.
All right, excellent. And also the fact that Dylan has worked in the mountain corridor, I think, is really beneficial because there's just, I call odd little quirks about mountain communities that, you know, you may not have in the flatlands of Arvada or something. You know?
I call them more quirks. But it's okay.
Right. All right. Well, we'll see everybody in about 20 minutes.
Again, there's some snacks over there, help yourself. Alright, if anybody likes some coffee or tea or water, again, help yourself, the pods are in the drawer there.
We rearranged the room for a council meeting, council members set up here, and we put these two side tables. Yeah, there's that. Have you seen that?
It's about an hour for 6 things.
Looks like you already smacked your own a little bit.
John, worked in Georgetown for a number of years.
Nice.
Public Works.
Superintendent?
Very close. Where's my $10,000 consulting?
And was in Georgia before that, so he's got quite a bit of municipal experience. Now he's on the elected side. He was very helpful with the transition when we were, with that position. Split it out, water, like it used to be. You have to go through the whole interview process and recruitment process. We just decided, you know what?
You're like a salesperson.
We got the potential right here. And he helped with that. Yeah.
Just look for the refrigerator. Look for the refrigerator.
A long time before.
John, you see the door's right there.
That doesn't always happen.
Good.
Christmas shopping, man.
It's on its way. It's in the mail. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually.
That went way faster than I thought.
Not really.
Yeah,
Yep.
oh my
Win.
Right. Hello, I'd like to welcome everybody to the December 11th regular council meeting for the city of Idaho Springs. We will call it at 7:01. I'd like to start off with roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Here.
Jeremy Jones.
Here.
John Curtis.
Here.
Jim Clark. Scott Pennell. Art Cacavelli.
Here.
Kate Collier.
All right, all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. We have an agenda before us tonight. Do I have a motion?
We'll approve the agenda for December 11, 2023.
Thank you, John. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from Art. Any discussion of the agenda? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Does anyone tonight feel they have a conflict of interest? Hearing none, I will move to approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes from November 27th, 2023.
Thank you, Art. Do I have a second?
Second.
And second from John. Any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll move to approval of the bills. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to move to approve the bills to December 11th of 2023.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Art. Any discussion of the bills? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any public comment tonight?
No, me.
None.
Okay, thank you. So we don't have any liquor licensing tonight. Is our finance officer with us? Okay. I would like next to move to municipal court judge and his 2023 report. It's in your packet. Welcome and thank you very much for joining us.
Geez, what took you guys so? It's a well-oiled machine. Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Judge, I just want to say I was, we were chatting just a little bit before our regular meeting. And one thing that's really a standout in the judge's report, his business is basically doubled from 2022. I was really, I thought it was incredible that there would be that much of an increase in 1 year. The other thing too, I don't mind telling you, while I was on council and since I have been mayor, I never would have believed I have not even received one single complaint about our municipal court.
It'll happen.
I mean, I just, so I have to believe that people at least feel that they're being treated fairly. I mean, you know, that we don't have folks screaming like their hair's on fire sometimes. So anyways, thank you for a job very well done. And I'm very grateful that you're willing to stay on with us for another year.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you. I feel it's a privilege to come up here. I really enjoy working with your staff here. It's a great crew. And yeah, things have gotten a little bit busier, but I think we'll see how next year turns out. The other kind of highlight that I'd notice, you know, we did have one piece of kind of complex litigation, and we might be seeing a little bit more of that. That zoning case was a little, it wasn't your standard speed up kind of ticket case, and I just haven't had another one filed. I can't comment too much on it, obviously, because it's still pending, but it relates to the Airbnb ordinance provision and constitutional challenge to that. So we're seeing a little bit more of that stuff, but you know, we'll hear the arguments and we'll see where they go.
Well, thank you. I know that was a lot of extra work. Normally we don't have things like that, and I'm glad it's resolved frankly, I feel that our staff, their staff, yourself, we all just have better things, to do, and we had always gotten along, and I'm just delighted that it's behind us.
Me too, and I appreciate the opportunity to work for the city, and we'll come back as long as you guys will have me.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
We're gonna go have my wife's birthday is tomorrow, so we're gonna go have dinner in your town.
Oh, happy birthday. Hey, Judge,
Yeah, yes, sir.
can I put you on the spot? And ask, where have you decided?
Mountain Prime,
Oh, okay, good choice.
is that okay? Any other-
Very good. No, that's excellent.
Yeah,
Actually, also a very good place for a birthday dinner or anniversary. Either way, excellent place to celebrate.
it's good to see you all.
Well, happy early birthday.
Thank you for the opportunity to work for the city.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judge.
All right, well, we'll move on to resolutions. And I am going to open a public hearing at 7:08 PM. And this is regarding resolution number 30, a resolution summarizing expenditures, revenues, and adopting a budget for the city of Idaho Springs, Colorado for the year 2024 and appropriating sums of money for said year. And do we have any public comment regarding the budget? All right, hearing none. I would make the motion that we adopt the budget as presented. And do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Art. Any discussion of the budget? John?
Do we need to close the hearing?
Well, yeah, I will, but before we take the vote, I just want to make sure we don't have any comments from council. I thought that my comment is that I thought it was very well done. It was very appropriate. I think there's a lot of things in there for our citizens that will make the city an even better place. And I felt that also it was very thoughtful budget. You know, we're spending the money the way the citizens would be proud that we spend it. Any other comments from council? All right, I will close the hearing at 7:09 and make a motion that we adopt the budget as presented. And I'm sorry, Jeremy, I think you have my second?
Yes, sir.
All right. And any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And we will move to resolution number 31. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 31, series 2023, a resolution levying general property taxes for the year of 2023. To defray the cost of government for the city of Idaho Springs, Colorado for the 2024 budget year.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from Art. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to resolution number 32. Do I have a motion?
So make a motion to approve resolution number 32, series 2023, resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with Jeffcom for dispatch services.
Thank you, Jeremy. And do I have a second?
So,
Second from John. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
I would like to make the motion on the next one, resolution number 33, series 2023. A resolution declaring that a vacancy will exist in Ward 2, City Council seat as of January 8th, 2024. And do I have a second? Second from Jeremy. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
All right, we do have one ordinance first reading. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 13, series 2023, and ordinance amending sections 21-15, 21-50, 21-93, 21-127 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code to establish unstaffed hotels as a permitted use within the city.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Art. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
And next up, we'll go into ordinance second readings, starting with ordinance number 9, series 2023. I'm making the motion that we approve the ordinance, and it's an ordinance adopting by reference the 2020 edition, revision 2 of the model traffic code for Colorado, repealing all ordinances in conflict within, providing penalties for violations of the same, and making conforming amendments to chapter 15 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from John. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
Next up is ordinance number 10. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve ordinance number 10, series 2023, an ordinance accepting and recognizing the alignment of the portion of Virginia Canyon Road.
Oh, thank you, Art. And do I have a second? Second from Jeremy. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
All right. I think it's the last of the second reading is ordinance number 11. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 11, series 2023, and ordinance amending section 21-29 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code concerning the outdoor storage of fuels and waste.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I have a second? And thank you, John, on the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, City Attorney. Nick, welcome.
I have a very important issue. I hope everyone enjoys their extra long December without a second council meeting and has a happy holiday.
All right. Thank you.
That's it.
Well received.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And City Administrator, we have a staff report with no request for action. And I just want to make sure, did you have anything else to share tonight?
I don't.
Okay.
I wanted to remind everybody about the party this Thursday, so you mentioned that, so thank you for that. And, look forward to it.
All right, very good. Thank you, Andy. Next up, Assistant City Administrator, one request for action. And do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the quotes from Civics Plus for Web Open Ultimate for a 1-year cost of $3,421.50, an annual rate of $4,114.40, and to also include Meetings Essential Ultimate for a year 1 cost of $5,700 with an annual rate of $2,880 from account 10-20-7020.
All right, that was a mouthful, but thank you, Jeremy. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from John. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
Jonathan, before we move on, I just want to make sure you didn't have anything further to share.
No, I'll try to make those motions a little shorter next time.
Okay. All right. Deputy City Clerk, no request for action. I want to thank you for your report. And I also want to point out, if you looked at Wonder's sales tax, you will see that we're only about 1.5% off of our all-time record. To tie our all-time record, we needed to be up 25%, and we're up about 23.5%. So I would just suggest that anytime you can get within 1.5% of your all-time historic record, that's a good year. So it's it definitely was some good news. Thank you, Wonder.
You're welcome.
Chief, got your report, no request for action. Oh, sorry, Andy.
Wonder, would you just reference the ad that will go in the paper and highlight the content of that for council if they didn't see that in the packet? Just want to make sure council knows about advertising the vacancy on council.
Right.
And how that would work.
Yeah, so the vacancy would go through until the next election in 2025. So we're asking for letters of interest to be submitted to me no later than January 3rd. And then city council may invite the applicants to come to the work session at the next meeting or the first meeting of 2024 on January 8th to do impromptu interviews for hopeful appointment.
That would be very good.
The soonest I can get it in the paper is the 21st, so it'll run for about, I think it gives it a little bit of time to notify people to submit letters.
Yep, Andy, good catch. Wonder, thank you for just reminding everybody, very important. I know it doesn't happen very often, but yeah, we do have an appointment coming up. Chief, no request for action. Just want to make sure you didn't have anything extra to share.
Just one quick thing, it's in the report, but just remember that Cindy Tooling, who's been with the police department for over 23
21st
years.
is our last day.
Right, is gonna be retiring and, she's a resident, longtime resident of Idaho Springs, and we appreciate her years and years of service to the police department.
Yeah, and she's the oldest serving employee as far as years of service.
Yeah.
So very good, and thank you for that reminder.
Yep.
Moving to Public Works, Paul, thank you for your report. No request for action. Just want to make sure you didn't have anything further to share.
And it's something I failed to share in probably the last two reports is we did have an employee, Brad was injured early in November. And he's been out since then. He had a tear in his knee. He's been working with the workman's comp and going through that process. And we just didn't have any kind of light duty to put him on being in our business. But it looks like he may be consulting with a surgeon and might go for a physical therapy route rather than a surgery route. So,
all right. Well, thank you for that update. We're, of course, wishing him a speedy recovery.
Yes, sir.
Ed, oh, I'm sorry.
With the new meters, how's the meter reading percentage coming?
There were still some, a few little hiccups, but it's all, the meters that did get put in are working. We still had some hiccups with connections with the wires between the antenna that reads and the meter itself. But for the most part, that program has gone off with very few hitches. And now we're just kind of trying to wrap up some loose ends with it and get this thing. But Patty was very happy with the read that she got, so it's working well.
Good, yeah, so I got a higher percentage of readings.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Ed, no request for action, but just wanted to make sure you didn't have anything further to share with us tonight.
Everything's working really good. I did a couple of meetings with the guys that sold us that new fancy Nareda wastewater plant and accidentally sold one to New Jersey. On accident. Whoops.
All right. I'm hoping we get a cut of that action.
Maybe.
Well, thank you. Ed. All right. Next up is the mayor. I just want to make sure that I thank everybody. This will be the last meeting of 2023. And I want to say Art has truly been an excellent council member. And I like to say one reason why we are very blessed to have the council that we do is the background, just the makeup of council is very, very much complimentary. And Art has some incredibly rare experience, particularly in the arena of parking. And we have leaned on him. And I want to give a very heartfelt thank you. And Art, also, if you would like to say some words.
Yeah, just, I won't keep you.
Well, we're early. We're not even half an hour.
Well, I just wanted to say it was an honor serving with this group here. We created a lot of good, solid dialogue and compromise. We came to agreement on resolutions and ideas and thoughts that I thought were beneficial to the residents of the city, and I thought, you know, it was an honor serving here. Of course, we couldn't do it without the support of the City Hall staff, which I'm very impressed with. Very smart, very dedicated, very knowledgeable. I didn't always understand what John was saying, but he translated for me a lot of times. And John, I wanted to compliment you. You really do your homework, and you always have good reason for what you want to do. And so any misunderstandings along the line, I apologize. I was just always trying to get clarity. So I want to thank that staff as well. As far as Ed and Paul are concerned, they jumped right in, just like they've been there all the time and did a great job. In the legal department, translated legal terms to layman's terms so we could understand and appreciate what was going on and be able to rule on it, or at least listen to it and understand what was going on. And lastly, of course, I want to thank the chief. He rebuilt the police department.
Yeah, I did.
Took a lot of work, long hours, a lot of dedication. First time I ever saw a help wanted sign on a police department. It worked. And just one other thing, Chief, I did a personal survey of every police department in the state. And you guys are the tallest police department ever. I mean, you guys are giants. So anyway, I just wanted to add that in there. But I want to thank you all. I want to keep you. It was my honor. I enjoyed it. It was fun. And thank you and good luck to everyone.
All right. Well, thank you, Art. So we are not going to have another meeting until January the 8th of 2024. And it'll be a work session and a regular meeting. And I hope to see as many of you as possible Thursday at the Arts and Tap House. And I want to wish everybody a very happy holiday. And before I adjourn, I just want to make sure no one else has anything to share.
Remove.
I'm hoping. 5:30 to 7:30 at least some. All right, well, we'll adjourn at 7:24.